on Monday, November 16th, 2020 at 9:00 a.m. in the courthouse grand courtroom and via Zoom online with 3 members present. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Number 1, approval or amendment of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda as printed.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as printed. Roll call vote.
Solosik.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. Consent agenda. Number 2, approve minutes from the special session of October 6th, October 15th, and October 30th, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the minutes of the special session of October 6th, October 15th, and October 30th, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as printed. Roll call vote.
Solosik.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. Number 3, approve the courthouse interior schedule of values worksheet. Discussion and possible action to approve the schedule of values for the courthouse interior remodel. Lucas, you're on.
All right. So I will say that there's a lot of information here. I gave you guys a packet. It's that one there. There are 3 different worksheets that you have. We broke out the interior package of the courthouse. So when we talk about the interior package, just the remodel of the inside, we broke it out into 3 different groups. A owner responsibility, which is the work that we have elected to do. There is a storm section, which is the responsibility of our insurance company from the damages sustained by the tornado. And then our 3rd section is code. So these are the International Building Code items that we have identified that are going to need to happen to the interior of the courthouse. What we're mostly going to be looking at today is going to be the owner section and the storm portion of this spreadsheet. So we've done a lot of work with our architects OPN, with Perfection, our general contractor, and Nan and myself to really identify what is the responsibility of each portion of this claim. So what we're looking at today and what we've been requested to look at by our insurance company is like I said, the storm and the owner portion of this. And I think mostly they're going to be interested in the storm portion, but I figured this is a good time for us to look through and I could help answer any questions on the owner portion. So when we look at this, the first section of it are general condition items. They are basically general contractors. They're per diems and hotels and dumpsters and fencing and just general project stuff that isn't any one subcontractor's responsibility. It's the responsibility of the general contractor. So we have divided that up into different percentages. When we're looking at the storm portion, the general conditions kind of as a whole, each line item is broke down differently. Typically, if we look at different stuff, you'll see in the storm column, you'll see 56%, you'll see 100%. That is what we've deemed that specific line item to be distributed and how we distribute that. So what we've done is we said, this is our quote for this portion of it, or this is our projection for this portion of it. And the total project, we say we've divvied it up by percentages.
Okay, I've got some specific questions.
Okay.
And this is some of the take I'm going to also, when we get into a session where we are discussing later on with the insurance company, what falls upon their shoulders and falls upon ours, is as I look at these and we take the per diem, the construction costs, the vehicles, the rental of the equipments, and all of these associated things, they're on site anyway.
Correct.
for everything we're doing, whether it is code upgrades or not.
Mhm.
So when I look at this, I question why any of that is on our shoulders rather than 100% on the storm and the insurance company's shoulders.
Okay, well, let's switch over to the owner portion of it and look and see what's actually divvied out to the owner portion. So starting at the top, construction management, we have 32% as an owner responsibility. Basically, we look at it and say, we took the total bid of the project, which is just under $9 million, and we said, these dollars are what the county is paying for. So we took that total dollar amount and divided it by percentage, and we say 32% of the total dollar amount Marshall County is responsible for. So that's how we came up with that percentage.
So are those the things that we are upgrading above and beyond what the insurance
Correct.
company's responsibilities are?
Correct. So what we really tried to do is be as down and as exact as possible. So we could basically take this spreadsheet, hand it to EMC and say, we're really comfortable with this, and to try and speed the process as long as possible. Our goal through the whole thing is to have EMC pay for everything that they owe and not, go above that, because that would be irresponsible on our end. So we really have to hold our head above water on this and say, we do have some responsibility on this as well.
Okay.
So when we look at that, 32% is pretty typical on the general condition stuff there. And like I said, a lot of that is the entire cost to do the project, and we broke it down by the money distribution through this spreadsheet. So it would have been nice to say we don't have any responsibility on that, but I don't think it really would have been fair.
Well, on a lot of them here, you've got zero responsibility.
Yes, yeah, there are like rental equipment, storage containers, porta-johns, the things that we said EMC would have paid for 100%, even if we weren't doing anything, then we zeroed that out. We have no responsibility on that.
I got it.
So if we move down a little further, back to storm here, we have broke the bids down into specific trades or specific portions of the claim or the project. We have demolition, we have building concrete, we have masonry, steel, millwork, and on each line item we figured a little differently. Some of it's square footage, some of it's linear foot, some of it's actual count. Like carpet is a square footage figure. Basically, we have a overview of the courthouse, and we drew a line on it and said, okay, everything east of this line is a EMC storm responsibility. Everything west is a Marshall County responsibility. It's not quite that simple, but that's the general idea of it. So we use that as a square footage number. Some of the walls are a linear foot, or the trim is a linear foot. When we get to an actual count on things is when we start looking at doors and bathroom fixtures and stuff like that. So we said this spreadsheet has been a culmination of a year's back and forth of, oh, hey, what about this? Oh, hey, what about this? And it's really been a fluid document, but there's a lot of hours that have went into this by Perfection and OPN and myself, and we're really fairly confident on it. So so this spreadsheet has been kind of check marked by our insurance adjuster. It has been sent over to EMC. EMC has looked at it and basically saying, yeah, we're pretty much okay with this, but we want the county's okay as well. They can't, they don't want to just rubber stamp it until they think everybody at the table is happy with it. So I don't know, looking through it, I mean, we can dive into as much detail as you guys like, or just kind of answer general questions. It's completely up to you. There is kind of a summary sheet. Bill, you have it there. Steve, it's kind of on the bottom of your pile there. That is a breakout of what's, the dollar figure of owner, storm, and code. So even 3 months ago, our code figure was a lot higher than what it is now. We've dialed into that and looked at it from a different perspective. That's more how the insurance company looks at it, and that figures went from around $5 million to about $1.5 million. So I think that's a good thing for us. We were looking at it a little differently and taking some of what should have been storm responsibility and moving it into code responsibility. And we dove into that and actually kind of flipped those numbers. So our code responsibility has gone down substantially, which is a little nice for us, with the situation that we're in with mediation coming up. I think it's a good thing that that number is a little smaller.
EMC has these numbers too.
They do.
Yeah, and
They do.
if I remember right, you were telling us that they wanted us to look at these and sign off on these.
Yes.
Or agree to them.
Agree to them. I don't think we have to say these are the end all be all numbers, but we like this general spreadsheet. There's always, there's stuff that you get into and change orders happen. I don't think what they're looking for, and I don't think what we want to do is say, yep, we're going to pay this 2.6 number and that's it. And I don't think EMC is going to do that either, because if and when things pop up, there'll have to be additional conversations on, okay, whose responsibility is this, or what portion of this is whose responsibility, and we'll have to get into that further.
This could be a nightmare.
Well, it's already been kind of a nightmare, but I think it's getting better, honestly.
This helps
feeling
a
better about
lot.
it?
This spreadsheet helps a ton if everybody agrees to this on the calculations, and even if there's changes, you still have a way to split things up.
Yeah. So this is really what we've been waiting for. I know months ago we said we were going to open a line of credit for the code items to move this project forward. And it was our intention to actually move the project forward at that time. But what we didn't realize is how much time our insurance adjuster would take to actually approve this spreadsheet. I mean, this thing's been revised 24 times. So it's what we thought would have been a lot quicker process after we approved the funds to basically front the code items has been slower. But what it's also done is put us in a position to where we haven't had to pursue that line of credit yet either. So there's a little give and take there.
Just a general question here as we're going through here. The code area then, is EMC more receptive, get my tongue tied here, to this figure than where we were?
I don't know.
We won't know until after
Mediation.
our big meeting.
Yeah, a week from today, we'll have a lot better answer to that question. We are instructed by our attorney basically to not talk about code. I mean, basically the only thing we say about code is we can't talk about code. So it's hard to say what their attitude is towards it, but I would assume that they're more receptive. I mean, initially they had offered us a buyout on code that isn't too far off from what our figure is now. So we'll see how that shakes out in mediation, but I have some positivity towards that.
I'd like to see them agree to it and we'll just call off the meeting.
That'd be really nice. I think, yeah, I don't,
You know, you don't
I
see
think
that
there are some
happening.
offline comments on that. I don't see that happening. I'm with you. I wish they would.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, honestly, they've offered us a figure that is close to what our code figure is now. Actually, more than our code figure is now. But that was when we had a $5 million estimate
Yes.
on it. So, yeah, I imagine it going one of a couple ways.
I'm not talking,
Okay.
not till we're done.
I also did include a latest copy of basically a spreadsheet similar to this for the annex as well.
oh, I had it here.
So, you know, as we have this detailed spreadsheet for the courthouse, we have a similar spreadsheet for the annex with a little less detail. Dave, it should be on the bottom of that pile there. It's,
I've got 3.
let me show 4. There you go. That's it.
Yeah, the one with the green.
Yep. Basically, this is a little more dumbed down version of what the courthouse is. There's still, you know, the buckets are still broke up separately, but we don't have specific quotes embedded in it. And on the courthouse figure, we have our adjuster has included the depreciation numbers and stuff. So if we were to take an ACV payment on it, which there's no reason that we would, but I think that's just part of his process that he goes through. He decides a depreciation percentage to it. There's a ton of stuff, you know, in these 4 spreadsheets that you guys have. After we get some, you know, some approvals on everybody's side here, and we get closer to subcontracts being written, there are some things that we will, some cost saving things inside of this project that we can do. That is kind of my next project. So there's, you know, there'll be, you know, I say small amounts of money in the grand scheme of things, there's small amounts of money, but you know, we could save 20 grand here, 30 grand there, stuff like that. There's still big numbers, but you know, when we look at the entire project, they're not big in the percentage wise.
On the 3rd page of the annex, you've got some numbers in red. Tell me what that is.
Let's see here.
After you have some second page too.
These are changes that we've made. This is the latest revision of previous revisions, and everything in red are the last changes that we've made.
Okay.
So you'll see some, in this, you'll see some things go from storm to owner, and storm to code, and owner to code, stuff like that. Basically, you'll see where something was zeroed out. Like for the HVAC, we had a bunch of money in the HVAC for storm, and we moved that over to code. The annex is definitely the building where we have the largest percentage of owner responsibility. Looking at the totals, we're paying about 67% of the entire project. And that's also the reason that it went out for public bid, and we didn't just have Perfection take it over and go through that. When we look at the courthouse, a the percentage of the courthouse was damaged enough that we were comfortable with saying we're in an emergency situation, and we didn't go out to public bid on that. But in the annex, it was a different story. That would have been a stretch to say that we're in an emergent situation on the annex. Yes, there are some things, but looking at it, 23% doesn't really meet the thresholds that we were looking at for.
So on the annex, you're looking at our out of pocket at 1.442 million.
1.44, yes, that's the original bid. We have had some change orders in there. Looks like annex total at this point is 1.487. So we've added some dollars there. There was some additional work and tuck pointing that needed done in the basement before we could move forward.
Yeah, that was just recently when you were telling us.
Yep.
about it.
Yep.
And approximately how many dollars are we going to maybe wind up with net when we come out of
The fire station?
the fire station, and after we get the fire station done and come out with our proceeds?
Yeah, we're looking to net about $500,000 on that.
Okay, so we're really looking at an out of pocket if we apply it towards the annex of about $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, wherever we apply that $500,000, and honestly, that number, depending on the extent of work that we do in the old fire station, there's some masonry work that needs to be done, but honestly, it's been to its current state for 25 years. So does it need to happen right away? Do we need to apply those funds to it right now? Probably not. And looking at that, my estimates are around $120,000. So, I mean, potentially, if we don't do that work, we could add another $100,000 on to that.
I'm just thinking of it as a return on our investment of what we're putting into it and what we're not going to have going out in rents and insurance and other things on buildings that are not under our control. And looking at this, I'm going to peg it at about 8 years.
It's pretty close to that. I think
Maybe a hair less.
I think we're right around $90,000 a year in just rent and utilities at the State Street building. And it may even be a little higher than that. It's been a while since I looked at those numbers, but it's around there. So, I mean, that's substantial savings.
And that's not factoring into the fact that when we rent from somebody else, you've constantly got upgrades and leases, increase in costs. Here, we're looking at a downward trend rather than an upward trend.
Exactly. We dump a rent, we dump a utilities. We now have basically a brand new building where maintenance costs are much lower
Way
on
down.
it. So there's some substantial upfront savings there. We have to our return on investment in the long run is pretty great there.
Sometimes you got to spend it to make it.
Yeah.
I think this is a tremendous investment for us.
We have the potential to reduce the taxpayers' burden, at least in my department.
The rule of thumb when you look at real estate is 11 years.
Payback.
We're going to cut that by a good third off of that, maybe even more.
That's pretty good.
This was tremendous investment.
Yeah. Especially if we start looking at, some of the, it seems that DHS buys a lot of new furniture or like they kind of trickle it through, and we're going to kind of start fresh there, I think. So that'll help as well, because I think we pay 65% or something of their
Furniture.
Yeah.
Oh, office supplies, furniture, everything.
Except filing cabinets, we ought to be able to use some of the hundreds they got down there. I jest a little bit.
You're not too far off. There's a lot. There's a lot in that building.
Are we able to put a time of completion on that, or got an idea?
On the annex building?
Yeah, on the annex.
Uh,
We should be past the point of finding things that we have to do.
yes.
We're down to the basement and
We are. I really think we are. There's one question mark on the second floor about the potential for some additional insulation that, you know, I'm waiting on a proposal for that I'll bring to you guys, but, you know, we're not looking at.
it's not a big.
No. I say not a big deal, maybe 10 grand, but
I know, but
my world has changed a lot. When I used to look at 10 grand and go, oh man, this is really something, but now it's
Is this walls or roof?
a little bit of both. So the exterior walls don't have any insulation in them, and then between the exterior brick and the interior brick, there's typically a void, kind of for a vapor barrier, or not a vapor barrier, but an insulating factor, and there's that gap really isn't there, and then there's no insulation on the inside of the brick. So the question is, do we fur the walls out further and do some additional insulation there or not, which, you know, are going to help us. We're already upgrading the HVAC system quite a bit, so our costs for electric and gas are going to decrease substantially there. But if we can add that next level R value insulation, I think that's
I don't think we ever want to cheat on insulation.
No,
it's not something that you want to skimp on much.
we did R39 in the ceiling at the store and R29 in the sidewalls.
That's, I mean, way above what most people have.
Even with the increase of the size of the building and more lighting, our utilities are running a third of what they did across the street.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculously cheap.
Our electric bills are really big. I think I mean, between the 3 or 4 buildings that I pay electrical bills on, I mean, it's like 600 grand a year. I mean, it's a lot, you know, between electric and gas. You know, anytime we can whittle that down.
Does that include the jail?
That includes the jail. Jail's big money on electric bills, big. It's a big facility though.
Yeah, it is.
Find the doors are open and shut.
A lot. So,
This
I mean,
is interesting.
to recap, this is something that we put a ton of work into. I'm confident on it. OPN's confident on it. Perfection's confident on it. My feeling from David with OPN is that EMC is, you know, they're on board with it. I can't speak to how happy they are about it. I'm sure they look at that dollar figure and they're not happy, but that's the risk they take for insuring. But I think everybody's just kind of sick of it and wore down, that they just want to go.
Yeah. Well, and the community's looking at it too and saying, gee, we'd like to see this done, guys.
Absolutely. Anything we can do to speed this along is good for us. You know, there's a lot of grumblings out there. Your social media is full of it, and you know, it's hard to overlook some of that sometimes.
Yeah.
But you know, looking back, I don't know what we'd have done different up till this point. Are there some things that we could have done?
To really,
Expedite this?
I don't think so. I mean, really the only thing we could have done is just say, put it back the way it was, which I don't think we'd have done anybody any favors at that point.
No.
You know, like I said, the last major remodel was in the mid 70s, and you know, we're overdue for it.
45 years.
Yeah.
And that particular one, they did a lot of work, but there's things they left.
Absolutely.
Big time.
And we're paying for that now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially in the up in the attic,
Yeah.
all the beams that should have been replaced, much of the masonry.
Mhm.
And you know, they were fighting the same things. They didn't want to spend the money. They didn't want to take the heat from the taxpayers.
Yeah.
Yep.
But doggone it, this is their building and you got to do it right to make it last a substantial amount of years.
Yep. And I think the work that we've done on the exterior of the building, sealing it up, and the quality paint that we've used, we're really going to see a lot of that work that we've done for the structure of the building last a lot longer. Just because, you know, as we improve in the years, our technology improves, our methods improve, you know, the standard that people are held to, you know, with general contractors overlooking and the architects overlooking projects, you just get a better quality of work. Now it takes longer, but you get better quality.
Are we in a position to make a decision on this today, or do we need a little more time to digest all this?
There's been a lot of time put in on this.
Yes, there has.
And,
We will be held up if no decision is made.
and.
They are waiting on this step.
Okay.
So, to do this, then we would approve these 4 worksheets as presented. Is that what you're looking at, Lucas?
I think I put a little thought into this, and I don't know. I think a motion along the lines of approving the percentages of the worksheets is maybe the best route to go. Not so much the specific dollar figures, because I
That's
don't.
going to change.
It potentially could change, and I don't want to get locked into something.
And there might be an item or two that we don't do in here.
Oh,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, so the premise of the percentages is really what they're looking at, of,
Yeah.
that the
So basically
concept.
you're looking for an approval of 5632. Pretty darn close across the board.
Yeah, I
Except
think
for it's
if we,
100%.
Well, but you got to look at each different category. I mean,
Right.
It's not specific percentages,
Yeah.
but the percentages listed for each line item.
yeah.
Some are 32.
Yeah, the big dollar figures and percentages is when you get down into like your electrical, your plumbing, your HVAC. Those are where a lot of the, you know, our big dollar numbers are coming through.
I'm trying to put together a motion here, but to approve the schedules, to approve the schedules percentages as presented. Now,
That's what the schedule of values is.
yes,
That's what that,
Yeah. These worksheets basically are all working off the percentages. I mean, you could potentially, the quotes and the numbers are secondary to what the percentages applied are. Everything runs off of those.
As long as exactly. So if we have an increase or a decrease in the dollar amount, it's not going to make any difference as far as the motion you're going to make goes, as long as we approve the percentages.
yes.
we approve the schedule of values worksheet, which is built on those percentages.
Yeah.
So to just say to approve the schedule of values percentages.
Yeah, that worksheet, because the line items are important too.
And,
Yeah.
and when we say that, we're meaning all 4. Well, they're together here, but
Yeah,
these two, these
yes, potentially.
courthouse and annex.
Exactly. Essentially, it's 2 worksheets with they're just printed to you a little differently.
Yeah. Well, I think with all the work that's put in on this and how you've described it, and we look at this, really this morning is really the first time that I think we've had a good look at it. because we couldn't read it.
Not very well.
And I could print it off, but then I'd have at least 2 pages per page.
Yeah, it's
It
tough.
didn't work.
I did a lot of work to it and hit a lot of cells just to get it down to where it was readable
Yeah.
on an
No,
11
this
by
is
17.
fine.
Yeah.
This is fine. This is what had to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's really difficult on a computer.
if we would move then to approve the schedules, value of percentages to the courthouse in the annex. That make sense?
It's annex, right?
Is the annex?
So the courthouse interior schedule of values worksheets for courthouse interior and annex.
And annex, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, interior is important. I should have had that in there.
It's the whole of the annex.
It is
or-
the whole of the annex. Yeah,
Yes.
there is some exterior and some roof work and stuff there. So it's just the interior of the courthouse and the annex.
Yeah. Could you read that back to us then, so all 3 of us are on the same
Okay,
page?
so Bill made a motion to approve the courthouse interior schedule of values worksheets for the courthouse interior and annex.
I would second
Let-
that, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to, can I edit that
Yep.
first? It's because we have both. I'm going to say the schedule of value worksheets for the courthouse interior and annex.
Yes.
That's the way I understood it.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Then I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded then to accept this proposal. I'm not going to try to repeat it.
To approve the schedule of values worksheets for the courthouse interior and annex.
Yes. All right. Is there any other discussion?
Let's get going.
Let's go.
Okay.
All right. Let's do a
Vote?
roll call vote.
Solosik.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. This is kind of a big moment here, so.
This is
Do a little dance.
Do a little dance.
my wife asked me what my day was like today, and I said, I got a day ahead of me. And she was, well, what do you got to do? I said, we're approving this. She goes, well, isn't that just kind of a formality? I said, yes and no, but it's really, a big mental thing. We've said all along, we're going to do all this, but actually like having this vote to say we're going
Yeah.
is symbolic.
No turning back.
Yeah.
No, sir. No. All right. Shall we move on? Number 4, Buildings and Grounds Department, discussion and possible action to approve the purchase and install of a freight lift in the fire station for election equipment. Equipment to be supplied by and installed by Minor Ltd. Of Urbandale in the amount of $39,690.
This is some equipment that is going to help us in the fire station. The reason you have the approval now is because I had the quote earlier, and it's period of time the quote is good for is coming
Running
up
out.
on lapsing. So speaking with Dave last week, the fire station is ready to transfer as soon as we're ready. So I think approving this is something that can help and get this price locked in. I'd hate to, go after the first of the year and they say, well, we're putting a 6% increase on anything or on everything. There's a substantial lead time on this, so getting it in sooner is.
Last time I talked to you about this, we weren't sure of the type of drive that's going to be on this thing to lift it. Do we know at this point then?
I think it's a gear drive on both sides of it. And initially, when we talked about this, we were going to open up one of the old the holes through and where the fire poles were. But since then, and looking into how the building structure is actually built, we're going to put it in the old tower that they hung their hoses in to dry. And it'll fit in there nicely. We had to scale it down just a little bit, so we won't be able to fit as much of the bigger voting equipment that we had hoped for, but it's not going to be that big a deal.
You just won't be able to take as many. at
It's
one
just a few
trip.
extra
Yeah.
trips.
Yeah.
How big is this going to be then?
5x5 is what I'm.
Yeah, I think so. I don't. have
Yeah,
it in
5
front of me.
wide,
Oh, I
5
didn't look, I'm
long.
sorry,
So-
I didn't look at that.
4x4 pallet would go up and down with no problem.
It would, but we're constrained by the door. The entry door into that is, I think, is only 36 wide.
Oh, okay. And
And then
that
you've
works
only got
for
a
your
1,000-pound capacity also.
equipment. Mhm.
Yeah. The things we'll be moving up and down is pretty light. I mean, I'd be
Voting
surprised if.
cages, boxes.
Yeah,
At 100 pounds, maybe.
Yeah,
At
honestly,
most.
I'd be
Yeah.
shocked if we had 300 pounds on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is, I'm not sure what changed, but this company actually quoted out a similar lift to this, or basically the same lift if we were going to rebuild the shop building, and it was like 43,000. So, and maybe that's just Perfection's markup on it, but so there is some cost savings from what our original quote was on this. And there is 3-phase to the building, so we get to put a little bigger motor in it, and it'll travel a little faster and smoother,
Yeah.
which is nice.
And of course, Perfection isn't involved in this project.
Correct. This will be something that we handle internally.
Yeah, 3-phase is good. The motor will last longer,
Yep.
costs less.
Mhm.
Draw less amperage.
Yes.
Are we good with this?
You know, because the property has not gone through the final switch, I don't know if I should discuss nor vote on this.
Okay.
Do you have a recommendation there?
I'd say that we have 2 other supervisors here, and just to be safe.
Just to be safe
Okay.
for total transparency,
Mhm.
there's a reason I'm not saying anything here.
At this point, then, I would move to purchase and install a freight lift in the fire station for election equipment to be supplied by and installed by Minor Ltd. of Urbandale in the amount of $39,690.
And I am happy to second that.
You don't always get an opportunity, do you?
Very, very rare. All right. Do we have any other discussion on this? at this point?
I will say there'll be a small electrical bill on top of this. They don't supply an electrician to do this work, so
I always assume that.
yeah.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Slosik,
Yes.
Thompson,
Abstain.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. We have a lift.
Excellent. I did have this on next week's agenda, but I figured just throw it on this one since we're
Good.
we're talking about buildings and ground stuff
Yeah,
anyway.
good
So
timing.
it seemed,
Well, and we have a special election already scheduled for December 15th, which the fire station we kind of need to be out of there, so work can kind of start happening, and we'll have another one, rumor has it, maybe in March.
Really?
That's all rumor mill, you know,
Another
but
school?
what?
Another school election?
No,
Okay.
but we'll see.
Okay.
You know, that's a ways out, but Lucas thinks that we could probably have everything ready for that time frame.
Just to give you an update, the abstract on the fire station has been split out. It was all one abstract before. Now there's been a new abstract created just for the portion that we are gifting to the county, which will be the north portion. That's done. The survey was done by Clap, Saddle, and Garber. The weird part of it is the front port corner of the building is 1/10 of an inch out of square, and the back corner of the building is 3/10 of an inch. So our attorney is wording it so that there's never any question as to whose wall it is, whose responsibility it is. It's basically going to be yes, both parties are aware of it, and we agree that it's the county's wall, and even though it's 1/10 of an
1/10.
inch over the property line, we're just gonna have to say,
Oh,
it's yours.
there was no wiggle room on that.
We
one.
can't
They built
move the
that
darn
one.
thing. I wish I could pick it up and give it a little twist, but
Oh,
you know,
dear.
and I'm sure that's because of the accuracy of today's, you know,
Absolutely.
surveying instruments
Yep.
as opposed to what it was years ago.
We have a piece of farm ground that's off 5 feet
Oh,
on the end, but it's correct on the other.
Huh.
And when you look in the recorder's office, there was a reason for it. There were trees there that they didn't want to remove.
okay.
So they gave us the land. Now the owner says, well, it's my land.
Do we need to bring that up at a board meeting then and vote on that sometime? you
Need
think?
that five
We got it
You
solved.
got it worked out? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
There's 3 ways to go, man.
And I think to be cleanest, we'll probably finalize this the last day of December or the first day of January.
Oh, great.
Okay,
Good news.
And then we're done.
All right.
now the first day of January is on the weekend.
Yeah. We'll handle it a different way.
Okay.
But all the abstracts and the coding and everything is done on our end, and Lucas is proceeding with getting the 2 buildings separated, and that's not an issue.
But whatever works for you guys.
Yep.
We'll follow. There's no problem about that, so.
Are we to the point where we need to pay some attorney fees and survey fees
I
and
haven't
things like
been,
that?
I've been billed for the survey. I've got that bill. I've got, you know, obviously the utilities because you're renting it
Mhm.
are ready. I've got water bills and heat bills. But other than that, you know, it's not a substantial amount of money.
Okay.
All right.
And I figured I'd give those all to Nan in one thing, so it's simple
Clean.
and
Yeah, it's
clean
easier.
and
Yep.
one bill, one check, and boom,
Yeah,
we're done.
Great.
I do have one more thing. I'd like to just let you guys know, we did get the bid set for the shop building for the demo and the rebuild of the wall. So once I get a print set on that, I will go out for bids on demolition and rebuild of the wall. And we'll just see what bids come in at and what timing's like to see how fast we can get it done.
Really like to get that building down. That's,
Yeah, I would too.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
If we can't get a wall back up, you know.
I
I
in-
understand.
Yeah. So far, the weather's holding decent.
All right, if there's nothing else, we're going to adjourn. Regular session is November 24th, 2020 at 9:05 a.m. All business to be acted upon at that session should be submitted to the county auditor's and recorder's office or the board of supervisors office by Thursday, November 19th, 2020 at 1:00 p.m. There being no further business to come before the board, the meeting is adjourned at
9:53.
9:53 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.